Contention 1 is child poverty. The NCCP writes in 2012 that stress from poverty has been proven to hurt children's brain development, causing lags in cognitive and behavioral development. Fortunately, Dodge 16 finds that cash injections into a family can re-spark a cycle that can pull families out of poverty, because he finds that parents will likely spend the money that they receive on services like tutoring for children. Thus, Duncan 11 quantifies that for every $1,000 increase in income also increases children's academic achievement by 6%. And Brookings 15 continues that every $1,000 increase increases the probability of children's enrollment in college by up to 4%. The impact of saving kids in poverty. The NCCP 19 continues that America's neglect of children has resulted in an astounding 21% child poverty rate, which comes to be around 15 million kids. Contention 2 is automation. US News 19 writes that almost 70% of all tasks on the job market can be automated, with up to 36 million jobs at high risk. Datavic from November writes that in 2 years, more than 54% of the job market will be required to retrain themselves in order to maintain their job. And problematically, he continues that the trouble from automation is that it processes and adapts so much faster than humans that economists believe that by 2025, automation will displace more jobs than it creates. However, even if that weren't true, The Atlantic writes that the new jobs created won't be accessible to the immense quantity of newly unemployed blue-collar laborers, because welfare job training is simply not fast enough to outpace automation. Affirming will solve the crisis because Tate 17 writes that the current welfare system breeds a workforce environment in which people start looking for a job immediately after becoming unemployed in order to not lose their welfare benefits. Implementing UBI would remove workforce conditions, allowing people to retrain themselves and equip themselves for a better job market. This is empirically proven, as Forbes 18 writes that UBI increased employment by 17% in Alaska. The impact is saving the economy. Stoli from Above explains that without UBI, the universal basic income, the loss of jobs would cause consumption within the United States to fall sharply, resulting in another economic recession with the United States. Ultimately, the IMF finds in 2013 that a U.S. economic collapse would push 900 million people into poverty across the globe. Contention 3 is savings. Even though the economy has been growing for over a decade, it seems as though Americans are still waiting on the benefits. Investopedia last October writes that currently the middle class budgets are stretched just as thin as those in the lower class. The Guardian continues in 2018 that an astounding 80% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and around 70% don't even have $1,000 in savings. Problematically, The Atlantic 17 explains that savings rates in America have slowly dropped from being around 10% per family in the 1990s to literally negative 10% a decade later. The problem is a growingly competitive job market. American Progress 18 writes that increasing competitiveness has driven up income volatility and job insecurity, which has left families worried about their next paycheck. Stressed out about their finances, families quickly look for places to pay the bills and look for places to spend instead of saving the money and putting it into a retirement plan like they should. Weller 18 continues that such financial decisions have made the middle class extremely susceptible to economic hardships, because a small accident could shatter up an entire family's finances. Critically, the article finds that policymakers can break this cycle by stabilizing family incomes, which is exactly what a UBI would do. A UBI would provide a steady stream of cash to families, allowing them to set aside money for a rainy day. And indeed, the DOC Research Institute in 18 writes that UBI implementation in the past has more than tripled personal savings. The impact is financial stability. CNBC writes that a third of the middle class can't even afford a $400 emergency, and 40% of the middle class is expected to be pushed into poverty by the age of 65 when they need to retire. It is important that we act now, as American Progress from Above contextualizes that the lack of savings is a growing time bomb, because in such a vulnerable position, families can be pushed into cyclical poverty without a safety net to save them. The Financial Times quantifies that over 25 million people are currently financially vulnerable, and this number will only continue to grow the longer that we wait. Save these people and affirm.
Can I see the card before the impact on the second contention? You guys cause consumption.
Oh, yes.
And then can I also see UBI examples of tripled personal incomes?
Yeah, I'll pull it down first.
We'll take
probably savings, but yeah.
Yeah, people don't have to work.
People just don't, it's on all case.
Or
yeah. It's this paragraph. And then it talks about programs implementing things. It's this paragraph that talks about savings triple. That's it. I think there's no questions.
Yes. 27 seconds.
Wait, where was
In
it?
case it's not fair. Oh, where is this from?
In India.
Okay.
Oh, where the yeah, in India.
Can I have the consumption card?
Yeah.
negates the resolve the U.S. should replace means-tested welfare programs with a universal basic income. We'll first define UBI as a periodic cash payment unconditionally delivered to all on an individual basis with no work requirement. We define means-tested welfare as welfare programs that react to the income of their recipients. Contention 1 is child poverty. Poverty is on the decline right now, as the Council of Economic Advisors writes in 2018 that consumption-based poverty has declined 77% since 1980. Specifically, child poverty has also drastically decreased, as Shapiro 17 of the CBP reports that child poverty rate fell to a record low of 15.6% in 2016, less than half of the 1967 level. He continues that the reduction is largely attributed to the creation and expansion of U.S. welfare programs. The implementation of a UBI would reverse this positive trend of poverty alleviation in 2 ways. First, by disproportionate income distribution. The CDS 18 reports that nearly 8.3 million poor children lived in single-parent households. Switching to a UBI would disproportionately harm families with children because Raleigh 19 finds that the UBI system gives a monthly payment to every adult in the country. A family with no children would earn the same amount as a family with 10 children. Because of this, Minogue 18 writes that a single parent with 3 children would lose up to $19,000 in annual net benefits. Second, by cutting child welfare programs. Education is a vital part of the means-tested welfare programs. The Sun 19 finds that children who attend Head Start programs, a form of means-tested welfare, are 12% less likely to live in poverty as adults and 29% less likely to rely on public assistance. Overall, Golden 18 writes that replacing means-tested welfare programs with a UBI would increase child poverty by over 60% or push 10 million children into poverty. There are 2 impacts of child poverty. The first is harming economic growth. Child poverty harms economic growth. As McLaughlin 18 explains, child poverty reduces the size of the economy by an estimated $1 trillion or 5.4% of GDP in 1 year alone. Child poverty also leads to lower economic productivity, higher healthcare costs, and costs of crime, homelessness, and maltreatment. Second, generational poverty. The impacts of child poverty persist through generations, as Bogani 17 explains that poor children go into struggle as adults because of a lack of opportunity and resources. Children's Defense 19 writes that people who experience poverty in childhood are more than 3 times as likely to be poor at age 30 as opposed to those who are never poor as children. Contention 2 is cutting targeted programs. Voting affirmative would require cutting 79 means-tested programs entirely and replacing that spending with UBI. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities does the math and finds that a UBI financed or means-tested welfare spending entirely would pay out only $1,500 per year. In contrast, poor Americans derive far more value from welfare than they do from a UBI. As Tanner 13 of Cato finds, the average value of welfare across all 50 states is around $28,000. Even the most generous UBI pales in comparison to the value of means-tested welfare. Poor Americans would get more value from welfare than they could ever get under the most ambitious UBI. If you vote affirmative and all means-tested welfare programs are cut, there are 2 key programs that would cease to exist. First, Pell Grants. Pell Grants distributed federal money to low-income students to encourage access to higher education. Delisle 17 of Brookings confirms that Pell Grants are distributed to low-income college students. The College Board 19 quantifies that Pell Grants cover 60% of all tuition costs, financing college for 7 million American students. Garofalo 10 of CAP finds that once graduated, recipients of Pell Grants can receive up to $20,000 per year in increased salary and are key to the development of a 21st century workforce. Thus, Garofalo concludes that reducing the supply of Pell Grants would have the opposite effect and be sacrificing America's long-term economic growth. Second, Medicaid. Medicaid is the largest national insurance provider and ensures that millions of poor Americans have access to consistent health care. Readwitz 19 of the KFF explains that Medicaid is the nation's public health insurance program for low-income citizens that currently covers 74 million Americans. Unfortunately, a UBI would replace this program entirely, forcing these 74 million Americans to pay exorbitant rates for private insurance or live uninsured. That's why Garfield 16 of the KFF finds that if a typical Medicaid recipient was kicked off and forced to pursue private insurance, their out-of-pocket spending would rise 7-fold. Overall, loss of Medicaid coverage would be deadly, as the AJPH finds that 45,000 deaths are associated with lack of healthcare coverage every year. Thus, can we have any gates?
Can I see the first piece of evidence you read under your C2?
Then it's only 1,000 per year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Is it cutting there? It's cutting that way, I think. Sorry, 1 second. That bold part.
saying if each of all of them is from that place. That's not what the policy process are.
Alright, can I take the first question?
Yeah.
Alright, so the program that you talked about with Head Start, how many years of education does that provide?
I think it provides like early education, right?
So preschool education, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like for how long? For like a year, right?
2 or 3 years, yeah.
And so then you expect us to believe that 1 or 2 years of preschool is gonna boost the person's income by that much in order to accomplish that.
I mean, yeah, that's what the numbers pretty clearly show, right? Like,
One study concludes there's a handful of studies that say.
what
that's
studies,
not true.
what are other numbers that you can throw out there?
I mean, there's a bunch of evidence
You
that
gotta
says,
name one
I
piece
mean,
of
my
evidence.
partner will bring it up, right, but
I
there's a bunch
mean-
of structural issues that impact children's ability to stay in
Yeah,
school.
one of the most important things is that people with kids early on don't have places to put their kids, so they have to work less, right? We hear these stories all the time on the news, right? The argument is that Head Start provides an opportunity for low-income parents to put their children in healthcare so they can work longer hours.
For
Can I have a
preschool,
question?
but
It's also free, which is really important because
Yeah,
average
for
healthcare
1 or
costs
2
can
years.
drag like 20% of
Sure.
it. Yeah.
Alright.
But like money goes over time.
We
Can
can
I have a
talk
question?
about, yeah, go ahead.
Let's talk about your second contention about automation.
Right.
At the top, you read that welfare means you create a work-first environment.
Yeah.
But then your recession scenario is dependent on a world where people don't have jobs.
Yeah.
Insofar as you can see in your case, the welfare increase the amount of people with jobs right now, doesn't that prevent a recession from ever
What
happening?
we tell you is that these people don't find jobs. Like, what we tell you is when
What
somebody
evidence says
loses
that?
their, that's the evidence that we, like, the one that you just mentioned, I think it's Tate. What we tell you is that when people lose their jobs from automation, they can't go back into the workforce as working like a truck driver, right? A truck driver right now stands to lose his job. I think there's like 3.5 million truck drivers to a self-driving car. So trying to go back into the workforce as a truck driver doesn't work and you don't get any
So
job.
what's the incentive in your world for someone to go back and get a job?
Because they wanna like
What's the
live, right?
incentive?
You need a job to live. But what we
Yeah,
tell
so you
is-
can see that welfare creates like a double incentive for people to get
But
work.
the issue is that incentive gets rid of their incentive to train, which is what they need to do. The moment
Why?
that people lose, because they need to work in order to get welfare. When these
Yeah,
people
so-
lose their jobs, they try to enter the workforce immediately to not lose their welfare
If
benefits.
you're-
They don't think that they need to train.
So if your argument is that people, when they get unemployed, need to work to get welfare benefits, and training is the only way for
Wait,
people to get
so-
those jobs, it seems pretty clear
My
that there should be
question
a
is,
market
if
incentive
you're-
for people to
wait,
get training
okay,
before they get jobs.
If you're, for example, somebody works at a cash register, right, and then you lose your job to a machine that's gonna do your job for you, what new job can you find using your skills that you had right now?
I mean, you just say people will just get training and then they'll get jobs after
No,
that.
no, I'm telling you welfare prevents them from getting
How
training.
does
That's
it,
my whole
you just
argument.
said welfare
That's what
requires
I'm
you to get
explaining.
work.
So what we tell you is, in order to get money from welfare, you need to prove that you work, which is why people, when they lose their job, they try to enter the workforce immediately instead of seeking
And
retraining.
if your argument is true, people who lose welfare, or people who lose their jobs, can't find employment without training. So in order for them to get back on welfare, they need to get training in the first
The
place.
thing is, they do find work, but that work doesn't
Okay,
serve
so
them.
what work is it?
Like part-time work, and that's why
So
it's
you'll see
used
they get
over
work.
time. I mean, like, sure, for like a month,
Okay,
and
that's
then
fine.
lose it
You have a
again, because
question?
automation replaces them, and that's why over the long term, it displaces more jobs than it created.
Good question.
I mean, we have like 10
So I have
seconds left.
another question. Your third contention is about savings. Your
Yeah.
first contention is about consumer spending.
Yeah, you
If
can
everyone
have
saves their money, will they not
You
spend?
can have both. I mean, the
Okay,
middle
what's
class
the
can
split
save, all the
then?
poor people can spend.
Okay,
Can I see middle class saves, poor people
Yeah.
spend, and
I
people?
mean, that's the same card that I showed you, that like,
Okay, we'll
the
say
savings
we'll
triple.
see it again.
we'll say people middle class spends and no.
Well, I showed you both cards.
There is.
Like it's the spending of.
This is that they spend,
It's very confusing.
like consumption will rise. Oh wait, did I show you this?
That's
This-
yeah, it's in C two.
Wait, I'm confused with the.
I want you say people spend money.
This is the card. Like that's what I showed you before.
Right, so you show me UBI cost of spending.
Sure.
For now, I have formal clothes theory drafted.
I'm perfectly okay with that. Thank
Come on, man.
Write it on and see if she told us to work.
Yeah, actually.
Coach.
Consumption, spending are the same thing.
Consumer just
I
consumption.
mean, we can talk about it in costs. You can just detect that this is talking
Can I
about
just
consumption.
see what she's spending?
Just
It's
read
a
the
different
paragraph.
highlight.
Yeah, I'll read it. Right, link, yeah, link. Thank you.
And then can we see people like get jobs for a month and go back?
Part-time.
Like the part-time stuff.
Yeah, sure. 3 seconds.
Oh wait, there's
Will you pass me the other water thing?
Yeah, sure.
It's very tasty water.
And if you don't mind a cup too, please.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Start with an overview, which is responsive to their entire case, and then we'll go line by line.
It's defensive, right?
What?
It's defensive.
Semi. It's defensive, it has offensive implications. Is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Start with an overview. The people that they talk about don't actually get the welfare. Dupre 15 writes that out of all the families who are in poverty and qualify for welfare, only 27% of them actually receive it. This is two more. The first comes to Dupre, who explains that most people who need it don't actually get it, and the law is cruelly structured to incentivize non-participation and actually exclude participation. But the second comes to Gashan 18, who explains because Americans associate means-tested welfare with laziness, dishonesty, and moral weakness, the program has become so stigmatized that people ignore these programs entirely. And as a result, people with high levels of need are just as likely to be scared away from applying with the benefits as people with low levels of need. That's a couple of implications. First off, it means that this is the very mitigatory, it serves as mitigation on literally all of their impacts, because only 20%, 25% of the people in poverty actually get the programs they're talking about, but also there's a turn. That because those 70%, 75% of people who get no benefits in the current system would actually get benefits in UBI, because A, it's unconditional, which means it literally doesn't have the stigma attached to it, but B, it's also not cruelly structured, because it goes to every single individual. It literally doesn't have any of the implications that means-tested welfare does. But then, let's go into it line by line. First off, they read the Shapiro evidence from 2016 that says, right now the child poverty rate is 15%. However, per our evidence from the NCCP from 2019, we find that child poverty rate is 21%, which is much higher, which means the trend right now is not solving the problem. In fact, it's increasing child poverty, which means if you vote for the neg, you're voting for the status quo, which is increasing child poverty. But then, let's go into their first argument about giving money to single parents, which helps them get more money. The problem is the AEI finds that if you are actually to implement UBI and take away means-tested welfare, you would actually give individual money for each individual children, with the AEI finding that it would be half the actual benefit per child, which is $600 a month, which means we literally link it to there. They don't understand how UBI would be implemented in the real world. But then also realize that the $19,000 worth of benefits that they're talking about, A, only 25% of people actually access them, but B, that $25,000 is predicated on Medicaid, because the majority of that bulk spending is actually from Medicaid, and that is why Whitequist finds that if you don't account for Medicaid, UBI would actually give $9,000 of extra benefits to make them prove that they win Medicaid in order to win any of their other offense. But then let's go into Head Start. First off, it literally doesn't do anything. As Finn of the Hoover University cites studies over the past 4 decades, finds the effects of Head Start have been proven void and negligible. This is because in the long term, when students are in the Head Start program finally reach primary school, the effects of the program diminish and people tend to drop out, partly due to the poor infrastructure and discomfort associated with it, which means they literally don't have any offense coming out of the effects of Head Start. I would argue that our LinkedIn about cash transfers is much better, because that tutoring has proved to actually see a 4% increase in college enrollment. But then, what's the impact level? First off, on the economy, they don't actually terminalize how much of a damage on the economy it is. They just say $1 trillion, but they don't actually impact out to individual people. But second, on generational poverty, I would argue that a recession pre-Brexit, because a recession puts a lot more people into generational poverty. But then, let's go into Pell Grants. The first thing that they talk about, they say that a reasonable plan would be $1,500 worth a year, but literally no UBI plan proposes that. Every single one talks about $1,000 a month, prefer that, because that's literally the plan that they talk about. But then on to Pell Grants. First off, you can turn it, because Pell Grants increase income inequality because colleges game the system. According to Julian Arduino, every dollar increase in Pell Grants results in a 97% increase in average cost of tuition, which means, sure, the people who get Pell Grants actually find it cheaper, but on net, you price people out. But then, realize that they don't solve the root causes. Higher learning commissions finds that the reason that only 3% of people drop out because of the cost majority fall out, because they don't have the tutoring beforehand, which is only cash transfers can do. But then going to Medicaid. First off, it's not unique. Tony reports that the Trump administration has already finalized a plan to let states convert a chunk of Medicaid, funding 2 block grants, which means literally Medicaid is being cut in status quo, which is why you're going to prefer the $9,000 for the benefits provided by UBI. But second, you can turn it. Because Journal of Public Health 17 explains that cash transfers provided by UBI allow individuals to get better preventative care, which empirically reduce the need for healthcare utilization and doctor visits in the first place. But third, you can turn this. Because David 16 finds that Medicaid is often outsourced to third parties who keep federal funding for themselves, while paying hospitals and doctors as little as possible. As a result, 413 finds that doctors are reluctant to take on Medicaid patients, citing the cost, complex paperwork, and long reimbursement periods. This has 2 effects. First off, Roy 13 finds in a 2-year study that Medicaid offered no significant health benefits compared to those uninsured. And second, PolitiFact 13 finds that surgical patients on Medicaid were 13% more likely to die than those uninsured. That has a couple implications. First off, literally all of their offense coming about the more benefits provided by means-tested welfare is based on the idea that they will seek private insurance. If being uninsured is literally better than being on Medicaid, I would argue that they won't even spend any money on Medicaid in the first place, which is why the Wild Quest evidence explains they would actually get more money on net if you implement UBI.
Can I see the most probable implementation ever?
Yeah.
Spoilers, just the very best thing.
Yeah. I drink a lot of water. I just left my water bottle at home and I was very disappointed in myself.
Slow. Sorry, I'm going to spice my garbage. Sure.
You must hydrate 2 things a day.
Yes.
Universal basic income. Or you can search any plan with universal basic income. But either one of them, just all of them say at least $1,000.
Just pick one, yeah.
It's the AEI one. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Just highlight the, like,
Over
income.
18. Alright, I'll
Just highlight who gets income.
Yeah. Oh, you just want the child part?
No, I want the card you read to the 1.5 thousand evidence.
Oh, okay.
That's the most powerful implementation. He says the most powerful information is 1,000 a month.
Yeah, you can pull that. I'll show this. Yeah. So this is $13,000, which is more than $1,000 a month. This is the one, and then I scroll up to the top where it shows that people under 18 receive half the benefits. And then here's also Andrew Meeting's plan, which is the pretty simple implementation.
individuals 18 or older, that's why it's so different.
Yeah, this one says the age of 18.
Yeah, that's. Actually, I'll take a look at mine.
How much prep use?
Maybe 2 minutes to Order's gonna be frontlining our case, starting with the overview. Alright, everyone good? Cool. Are you good? Alright, cool. On the overview, group it. Recognize there's 2 responses here. 1, Green Side 19 finds that 90% of funding to main sense of welfare programs actually goes to beneficiaries, so there's no actual waste they're talking about. But second of all, Green Side 19 furthers that 50 years ago, welfare only covered 4% of the population, now covers 44% of the population. So even when some residual offense of the fact that people are not actually getting money, it's growing in the status quo, welfare is getting bigger, and on that solving for their offense. Let's go on to our first argument. They say that overall child poverty is decreasing. They drop the CIA evidence, which is far more holistic than their evidence. It says over the past 50 years, child poverty has gone down by 77%, whereas their evidence says in 2 years, it's gone up by 5%. Obviously, before our evidence is more holistic, and it says the long-term trend is mean sense of welfare is reducing child poverty. On that takes them out of all their offense. Even if some people, even 4% more people get child tuition, as long as on net child poverty is decreasing the status quo, that is still a reason to negate as the status quo is working. Then they say this AEI evidence says you only give money to people over, you give money to people under 18. We call for the evidence. It only says adults over the age of 18. The reason why giving UBI to only adults over the age of 18 is really critical is our first link about income distribution goes clean, because Minogue says that a single parent would lose $19,000 of welfare benefits, because right now in status quo they get benefits to their children, but in a world where you're only giving money to adults, they lose all that money they would be getting their children, on that losing $19,000, which turns their first argument about tutoring, which I'll get to there when I go there. Let's go on the first impact of economic growth. They say we don't implicate the damage as long as we prove the economy goes down by 5.4% and there's $1 trillion less spending. That takes them out of their second dimension as well, because there's less consumer spending, then on that there's less jobs being created. Let's go to our second dimension about the social safety net. They read a turn on Pell Grants saying there's a 97% increase in college tuitions. There's no implication as to how many less people actually get college tuition, and we would say this effect always increases for institutional aid, so it's always going to be non-unique. They're not getting any offense on their turn. Go to Medicaid. This is what we're probably going to be going for. They say that Medicaid is being cut in this
status quo, but they drop our Rudowitz evidence from 2019 that indicates that 74 million Americans currently have access to Medicaid, so even if it's being cut slightly on net, a lot of people are still using the program. Then they say people get more preventative care. This is absolutely balderdash. There's no warrant. A slight increase in economic conditions does not allow someone to avoid surgery altogether. We would say as long as people have health insurance, it's always going to be better than some marginal increase in economic growth, improving their economic and health conditions. Then they say third parties pay hospitals really badly, so there's no significant health benefits. That's simply not true. Our Garfield evidence says people are more likely to die, and our AJPH evidence indicates 45,000 lives are lost every single year as a result of being uninsured, and people have to pay 7 times more in a world where there's no Medicaid on net. 45,000, that number probably triples or even doubles or triples in their world, and more people are dying. The fact that people are dying as of not having insurance right now just proves the system of having welfare as healthcare is probably better than having none of it. Finally, they see people get more money on net. What Hoynes 10 finds is that UBI would not be able to cover the cost of Medicaid. Prices would increase by 7-fold. People would lose, these 74 million people would lose all access to healthcare. Let's go to their case. As an overview, their contention 3 says people will save more money, but their contention 1 and contention 2 says people will spend more. Make them decide. We're going to concede that people will save more money. It takes them out of their first 2 contentions. That's terminal defense. But on their first contention anyway, what the Council of Economic Advisors finds is that poverty is reduced by 77% in children. So on that, we have a more holistic evidence. So classify all the evidence from my rebuttal. But then from my response on our case. On their second contention about automation, 2 responses. 1, what Schwartz 19 on the Huffington Post finds is that even though automation displaces 75 million workers, it creates 133 more, so there's a net positive increase in employment. Then they say that it only creates part-time jobs, but we would say part-time jobs are key, because if you have short-term job experience, it allows you to build long-term job experience and get better jobs in the future. But then they try to tell you that basically people will not be able to re-enter the workforce. That does not make sense. But recognize, means tested welfare programs are built to get people back into the workforce. That's why means tested welfare programs offer job retraining, which on that solves their offense. On the impact of our recession, McKay 12 of Yale University finds is that welfare is actually a key counter-cyclical effect during recessions, which is why a 0.6% decrease in welfare spending, you see a 7% increase in volatility on net recessions more likely in their world. Go to contention 2 about savings. 2 responses. 1, recognize there's more disposable income in our world, means on net we get better savings. Recognize they drop the Tanner evidence indicates that welfare gives on net $28,000 of benefit, whereas at best in their world they get $12,000 benefits. The poor get more money in our world. But second, recognize the terminal impact is 25 million people are financially vulnerable. There is no implication as to how many people go into poverty for our quantified poverty impacts from Straumann. It says 40 million are kept above the poverty line.
Actually, can I see your, really quick before Ross, can I just see your evidence on uninsured increase in death?
What do you want? Saturday.
What you read at the end, or end of frontline
HHH.
interface?
What? 45,000.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not in there. Sorry. Find it?
Okay, sweet. Okay. Is everyone ready?
Can you give me 1 second?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, good.
Okay, time starts now. So let's just talk about that card you just showed me. Does it say that 40,000 people uninsured die every year?
It says 45,000 deaths are caused by a lack of health insurance.
Okay. Does it do the comparative of what happens when you're on Medicaid?
No, that's not our argument. Our
Okay, that's
argument is very simple. We say 74 million people use Medicaid right now. We also say that in a world where Medicaid goes away, insurance premiums would increase 7-fold, and our Hoynes evidence I just
But
read.
I'm not saying
Wait,
that
wait,
they
wait.
seek that private Medicaid. Or that those
Right,
private programs,
right.
right?
So it
We're
does-
saying compared to uninsured.
So it does do the comparison against uninsured. It says people who are uninsured have 45,000 deaths. How many people
No,
die?
that's not what it says. That card just says 40,000 people die because of uninsured. It doesn't do the comparative. The only piece of evidence in this entire round that does it is our evidence, which says there's literally over a 2-year analysis, there's no difference in the amount of significant healthcare.
Okay, well, that just says the amount of healthcare. It doesn't say the amount of lives being
No,
lost.
it's sorry. It's not the amount of healthcare because obviously people uninsured don't have that healthcare. It says the significant effect on health is the same in both scenarios.
Right,
Because
because
Medicaid is so
all
inefficient.
of your defense is alternate causal, right? Like the reason why people in Medicaid have lower health is because they're A, very, very poor, and B, already probably have pre-existing health conditions. So sure, maybe if you look at people after they went Medicaid, they're still sick. That doesn't change the
But
fact
here's the problem, right?
that like
Is
74 million people have
that
no
would
health
make
insurance.
sense if you were applying it for people on Medicaid versus private insurance. That's not what my evidence says. It's people on Medicaid versus people who are uninsured, which is literally the point of the
Right,
link.
so-
These are similar situated people,
Okay,
it's just
okay.
in states who
Okay,
haven't
so
like
how many-
expanded Medicare.
So how many people die as a result of Medicaid?
Well, we tell you, according to the PolitiFact, there's a 13% increased chance of death for surgical deaths.
Because that bites the alternate causality thing I just said. People on Medicare are already sicker and already more likely to die. My question is how many
No,
people...
Medicaid just applies to everyone
Can
who's
you let me
yeah.
finish? My question is how many more people die as a result of going onto Medicaid?
Well, first off, we read none because we say it's the same in both worlds. That's our, we never turn it.
Okay, so then our evidence says 45,000 people die when they're uninsured.
I
Unless
can
you...
search up and probably find the same number amount of people who die on
Okay,
Medicaid.
then do that and read it in a second.
Okay,
Do you have a
I can-
question?
yeah. Okay, sweet. Let's talk about your defense on. Actually, you can have a question if you want.
Okay. So what percent of an average UBI check is saved and what percent is spent?
I'd say it depends on the person. If you just lost your job, you're probably going to spend that money. If you're secure in a job and you've already put enough money on your bills, then you can probably take that money and save.
I'll ask you a different question.
Okay.
Would the majority of people save or majority of people spend?
I mean, probably if majority of the U.S. is low-income people, they'll probably spend it.
Okay, that's fine. Good question.
All right, sweet. So let's talk about the.
Wait, sorry, can I ask you a quickly?
Sure.
That mitigates your third contention, correct? Because not that many people are saving.
Well,
That
not
means
necessarily,
that
because the
access to
savings
third
impact that we talk about are specifically people who are in the middle class right now who have put all their money on bills and need money to save.
Well, but
Two
you
different
just told me there's a smaller amount of people who do
25
that.
million.
The
Yes.
No.
That's the
whoa.
Financial Times
No,
evidence.
25 million people are financially vulnerable. That includes people
Because
in
of a
poverty
lack
as
of
well.
savings. That is
That,
our
that
evidence.
includes people in poverty as well. Like,
No. Those individuals are encompassed through our C1 and C2.
Wait,
These
you're-
are, we're talking about the UBI effects in our C1 and C2.
Wait,
Most
you're
low-income individuals. The C3 is more about middle-class people who fall into
you're
poverty
just-
after they reach the age of
wait,
65.
you're just flip-flopping on the word. You just conceded that a very small,
No,
smaller
there's
percent.
nuance. You can't say every single person in the U.S. spends their money.
Well,
the
I'm
same-
trying to
same
understand to
way.
what extent you access your impact so we can do some weighing.
Yeah, so
I don't know
so
to
I can
what
explain.
extent people
For
are
the
saving.
people
Also,
who are
we're
low,
over
yeah.
We're over time.
Okay. Go start front.
Oh, can I look at the McKay-12 card?
Yeah.
It decreases the volatility or something.
Some card. It's just about automatic stabilizers. I can
Wait, which one? Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. Alright, I'll go down there, case I'm not obvious.
Where is our
Your case I'm not obvious. Everybody ready? Alright. The reason you can go first is because he clearly extends their range. His answer to overview is that like the welfare state is expanding. The issue is he doesn't respond to what we tell you. We tell you that right now the people that are covered by welfare are only 25% of the people that actually need it. That's why 75% of people will get coverage the moment that you give them $1,000 through UBI. That's clean offense for us because 13 million people that now get $1,000 that they didn't have before. Yes, the welfare state expands to a lot of people, but the issue is a lot of those people are not actually poor and don't actually need it. Only 25% of people who actually need the state actually get it. That's clean offense for us. But then on our answers, he says that because the amount of child poverty has been decreasing over the last decades, that clearly means the welfare state is actually working. The issue is he doesn't respond to the specific studies on the programs that they mentioned. We tell you, for example, the program that they talk about Head Start, 1 year of extra preschool education doesn't actually prevent any of the cyclical problems. It causes people to drop out of education in the future, which is why over the long term, over 4 decades, after this study analyzed Head Start, they found absolutely no link from Head Start increasing, decreasing child poverty. You prefer our studies from our case. It tells you that cash transfers actually increase the purchase of tutoring, which you completely don't contend, which means that you increase the ability of a child to perform in school by 6%, 6%. You also increase their probability of getting enrolled by college by 5%, which is very clearly linked into giving them cash transfers to going into college. They have no response to that, which means that you, by voting for us, you ensure that these people get $1,000 cash transfer every single year. Then on the AEI study, they say it doesn't talk about poor people. You can read the study right now. It literally says that families with kids will get $6,000 of benefit per kid, which means they get more benefits from UBI than they do from their state. But then also, they don't respond to the diamond evidence because we tell you that the majority of these benefits that people get, which they claim are vastly bigger than UBI, are from Medicare. But the moment that Trump is trying to cut Medicare, that means they're not actually getting more benefits, which is why voting for us provides them $9K more on net of benefits from UBI. They only claim that right now 74 million people are still covered by Medicaid. They don't attack the fact that Trump is still trying to cut it, and he is likely going to succeed as the diamond evidence concludes, which means all these benefits will go away by voting for them. Then they read a bunch of numbers about how it'll hurt the economy by like $1 trillion, but they don't link any of that into anything. They don't implicate it. But now onto Medicaid, they lose this for two reasons. First, they drop our public health. They say that there's no warranty period done. We tell you that every time that people get $1,000, they can pay for preventative care, which decreases their use of needing to use insurance in the first place, which means that on net their cost of healthcare actually decreases because they prevent the use of healthcare, which is a clean vote for us there. But then they say that right now there's a bunch of deaths that happen because people are uninsured, but they don't give you the comparative. We do. Our study is specific from Roy that tells you that people who are on Medicare experience no benefit from Medicare than being uninsured because there's so much paperwork that doctors flat out reject them, which is why for normal patients there's absolutely no benefit from Medicare, and for surgical patients you actually give them a 13 times more likely to die because people just reject them. Those are two clean offenses off of Medicare because they tell you that Medicare is bad. And then on Pell Grants, he doesn't intend the fact that these colleges actually hike up the price. He just says it doesn't quantify by how much, but we tell you on net they actually raise the price. Now into our case, he says that you can't save and spend at the same time. That's just ridiculous. You can do both, and it might mitigate some, but it doesn't contend the fact that people will still save. And so that means on our third contention, when we triple the amount of personal savings, you prevent these people from going into economic distress. We tell you right now 25 million people are on track to being pushed into single poverty because a $400 emergency will push them into not having any money whatsoever, which is why you need to vote for us to increase their savings. That gives us a link into 25 million people, and then their McKay card doesn't even say it reduces recession. They just misquote that. It just says it decreases volatility.
I see financial time stuff.
The what?
25 million
Oh,
people.
yeah.
I was like, I see you.
Here's the number. The article expense.
Where is it?
You have how much time? 20 seconds.
Is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Orders, my case, their case. Oh shoot. My bad. Everyone ready? Everyone ready? Start. on the overview, they extend this one response that tells you 13 million people will get a $1,000 in their world. That does not respond to the frontline for pronounced rebuttal. Our argument is that the status quo is a derivative. It's not just a point. The Green Side 1900 specifically tells you that right now 90% of welfare funding is going directly to the people. But second, and more importantly, over the past 15 years, it's grown from covering 5% of Americans in poverty to 44% of Americans in poverty. That's really important because it proves the welfare state is growing and solving for all the poverty crisis in their world. If you believe, which is completely job, that the trend is trending upwards, that's a reason to vote for negative. That's a lot of offense for us. Now let's go to the first contention about child poverty. They completely dropped the CAA evidence that tells you poverty by consumption is decreasing by 77% right now, which proves the status quo is solving for the child poverty question. The only question is whether or not UBI is comparatively better. They read this piece of evidence on the first link about income distribution telling you get $600 per kid. The evidence they read later from Yang says that only people over 18 will get $1,000. But even further, our evidence that the comparative tells you that in our world, people lose $90,000 in welfare benefits. That's really important insofar as the CDS, which is also clean conceded, tells you that 8.3 million people live in single parent threshold and won't have access to education and won't be able to get out of poverty. The argument is very clear here. In a world with UBI, sure, people get a little bit more money, but that will never make up for the cost that welfare is giving to single moms and single dads to cover their children's education costs and make sure the children are fed and have access to higher overall outcomes in life. At that point, you can extend at that point we turn the tutoring turn insofar as people have more hard cash in our world, they pay for tutoring more than in their world. But second, they drop the golden average that tells you that because of UBI specifically, you'll see a 60% increase in child poverty to push 10 million people into poverty. Even if in their world, people can get to college, it doesn't matter because people can't pay for college because they're in poverty in the first place. Our case is a functional prerequisite to all the offense they have in our case. Now something McLaughlin evidence from 2018, which is also dropped, that tells you reduce GDP by 5.4%. This is really critical because it means we don't get any access to any offense on their case. Insofar as child poverty decreases overall economic growth, they don't have increase in consumer spending, they don't create jobs, they don't have anyone increase their savings overall. But then they drop the Bogani evidence that tells you that people who are poor children are 3 times more likely to be poor as adults. This means the generational long-term impact. We outweigh an irreversibility here because people who don't get child poverty welfare programs right now will never get out of poverty, which is like children will never get out of poverty. It's an infinite impact. You have to vote for welfare in the status quo. We're not going for a second contention. They only have mitigatory defense. They don't get any offense there. Now let's go to their case. At the top, they tell you people will still save. At the point where you don't know how many people will save, they don't have access to any scope of their impact. You just have a nebulous number that says people save and people spend. They have no quantifications. Now let's go to the second contention. The McKay turn is really mishandled. They just say volatility is not impact to recession. Insofar as McKay literally tells you a 1% decrease in spending increases overall economic volatility by 0.6%. It proves the economic situation in the affirmative world is far less secure than the economic situation in our world. Insofar as the third contention about savings tells you that economic volatility is bad for the middle class and low class Americans to clearly outweigh all their offense because we create situations where people actually need to dip into welfare spending in the first place. Now their last contention about welfare. Their impact is absolutely no implication. They tell you 24 million people are vulnerable to economic distress. There's no implication to poverty. We tell you vulnerability is not equal to poverty. Vote for us because we stop irreversible cycles of poverty.
Alright, can I ask the first question? Alright, so in your first contention, your front line to our answers was saying that because they lose on-net benefits from welfare, they have less money to spend on tutoring, right?
We should have less money.
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah,
so if
I
I
have
have,
two responses. One, they have less money. Two, they can't pay for college.
okay, yeah, so for example, if I have a food stamp from welfare, right, can I use that to go and buy a tutor?
No, but
No,
use
but
it for food, but your salary can be then used for
It'll free up
tutoring.
the rest of your income.
Yeah,
to
I
spend
mean,
on
you
it.
have liquid income.
So on-net benefits, right? Let's talk about this on-net benefits that don't include Medicaid, right? What is the benefit compared to UBI?
$19,000.
No, $19,000 includes the benefits from Medicaid. What happens when you exclude Medicaid? I'm just
Right,
curious.
but regardless, like,
Why would we have to exclude Medicaid?
I'm just curious. Like, hypothetically, it excludes Medicaid. What is the
Why would
total
it
benefits?
matter?
Because you clean drop diamond evidence, which is terminal defense in your
no,
case.
no.
You say it's cut, but you do never tell us to what extent it's being cut.
First
so,
off,
so we don't know what that 19,000 number shrinks to, and we always know it's going to be over
Also, Diamond is
12.
not
Why do you know
defense.
it's always going to be over
Diamond is
that?
not total defense insofar as you can see the green slide evidence that tells you we're improving the status quo.
Two things. First off,
Over 15 years, which is
the
outweighing
implementation that we talked about
Sorry.
haven't actually happened. All of your defense is predicated on right now 72 million people are insured, so it doesn't matter. Our evidence is saying what a plan is going to be pushed right now this year that will cut off that Medicare funding.
Wait, this nuance was like not made until.
No,
this
this
is
is rebuttal. And
Regardless,
I can literally read what I read in rebuttal. Diamond
It
reported that's
doesn't
not
matter.
Can
I really don't think this matters. Like, you're just saying we have
Can I ask-
mitigatory
can
defense.
I ask
I'm
a
like,
question?
yeah, but we don't know to what extent mitigates. Yeah, you can have a question.
Okay, so your extension of your first contention is saying poverty has decreased, and that proves that welfare has been
No, that's
working.
overview.
The CA.
Wait. How can you link the two? Like, I can find a card that
Wait.
says that like the economy has been growing, and say that's because I walk outside. That doesn't. You can't link the two. You need to extend the link. So what's your link? It's Head Start, right?
No, it's
So
not.
there's
do
two
you
things.
extend?
One, the CA evidence is not general. It actually says because of means tested welfare. That we read that in case.
What's the means tested welfare program that you
All
extend?
No, the income
we don't have to go through.
regardless,
Okay,
regardless.
explain the
We're
link.
going for our
Explain
first look at
the
income
racket
redistribution.
All that matters is means tested welfare is giving people money.
We're going for our first look at income redistribution.
Sure.
Okay, so
We're
okay,
at-
you're going for that. Okay. got it.
Yeah.
Clearly, I only.
He only extended.
Fine,
So
fine,
he
fine.
extended.
You extended was child poverty has been decreasing and above for status quo means that poverty can keep
Yeah, that's the
decreasing.
overview level.
But if for example there's
Different
other
levels of
factors that cause child poverty to decrease, like I don't know, economic growth, then the status quo of welfare programs isn't actually going to keep growing. That continues to grow.
You didn't read the
forward.
evidence, and the CEA evidence says the presence of means tested welfare is the cause of that decrease. Regardless, we're going for our link on income redistribution. Your evidence that you read in rebuttal says only people 18 or older get a
No,
UBI.
no,
That's our
I can
argument.
read it word for
No,
word.
no, you give me two pieces of evidence.
The second
Yes,
is
You can
evidence
see the
of-
gang evidence, not that evidence.
They're both on the AEI evidence is on the
No,
Yang
because the
plan.
Yang evidence-
First off, the
The
Yang
Yang
evidence
plan says
literally doesn't
two
talk about
things.
removing means tested welfare. That's why we
Yang
said.
plan.
I know the
Just
Yang plan
Yang-
says a lot of things. You can't look at one word and say it doesn't talk about anything
Yeah, it
else.
does.
It showed us a piece of evidence that was highlighted. It said
Yeah.
only people over the age of 18 get one.
It
UBI. Yeah.
says they give
Okay, that's fine.
$1,000 to people over 18.
That's
It
fine.
doesn't say they're not
Okay,
going to
yeah,
get
that's
tickets.
fine. Okay. I think we had 2 minutes, but I think I'm almost done. Okay. Is everybody ready?
I need a minute, please. Oops, thank you.
It'll start on the overview. Everyone good? Starting the overview, they keep saying the screen set evidence that says 90% of the benefits from welfare go to the people. That's literally not our argument. We agree to that. However, it's not going to the people who need it the most. That's why I prefer our evidence that says only 25% of people who are impoverished actually receive the benefits that they need, and 75% of the people in poverty right now don't actually get any benefits. That's really critical, because the Washington Post finds that 13 million people below the poverty line are literally getting 0 benefits from federal programs. However, this changes the second you implement UBI, because UBI doesn't have those same limitations or limitations based around poverty. As a result, we find that those 13 million people who have literally never gotten any support before will now get $12,000 every single year. This is critical, because that allows them to start to pay for college, it allows them to start to pay for tuition, it allows them to start to pay for food, it allows them to start to pay for Medicaid and all the insurance that they're talking about. Literally, these are the most impoverished people. You should prioritize them above everyone else, because they've never received any federal benefits before. Prefer this over literally everything they talk about. But then, let's go into the rest of their offense. First off, they talk about like redistribution of wealth. However, for the AI evidence, which is the only piece of evidence that actually talks about repealing the system of welfare and implementing it with UBI, which tells you that when you have a kid, they get half the benefits of UBI, which is why on next they actually get more money than they would without UBI and only the system of welfare. But then they try to keep going off this idea that Medicaid provides them a lot of benefits, and that's more than the actual ones they would receive for UBI. The problem with this is, first off, the diamond evidence, which tells you that by the end of this year, Trump is pushing to cut Medicaid to the point where UBI benefits will provide more. Which is why WildQuest finds that if you implement UBI, you actually get $9,000 worth of more benefits than you would in a world with means tested welfare. That is the comparative analysis. It's much cheaper than. But even if you don't want to buy that, vote on the term, which is dropped in summary, which tells you from the Journal of Public Health that because they can buy preventative care with cash transfers, as a result, they can actually the cost will actually go down down because the preventative care measure you don't actually entail the bulk of the cost in the first place. But then, go on to our case, the only thing they try and extend is basically that like there's job insecurity now, and the next dolls for it. The problem with it is literally they're not stopping right now. No one is putting money to save in the first place. Now, I'll also argue that the Financial Times evidence explains that 25 million people are on the brink of right now because they brink of poverty because they don't have any savings. This changes it, but second confirm is the DOC finds that a unit planning UBI would lead to 3 times increased savings, which would save those 25 million people from ever entering poverty in the first place. Realize the place you're going to vote is A, you get more money because you get $9,000 extra worth of benefits with the UBI, and B, you prevent the 25 million people from ever going into poverty.
Yeah, we'll take the last 20 seconds. Yeah, I got that.
Which is a prerequisite.
I got that.
That's not policy. So it's what we need to say. You're right.
It's really such an important.
It's not good matter. Sorry. It has all of the programs. Can we see the Yang evidence for running that?
The one you showed us
The one you showed us? Yeah.
The one that doesn't replace assisted welfare?
Just Yang.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want to make your over?
No, you're.
Okay. Alright, so the order is going to be. Actually, I'll take the last one. Right, so it's going to go overview, RC1, then their C3. Or I'll just cover the terms under. I'll signpost.
New overview or?
No. Sorry, that's the same thing we've been talking about with the coverage. Alright, is everyone good? Cool. At best, this overview slightly mitigates our argument. They've dropped the Greenstein analysis, specifically says over the past 50 years, the amount of people covered has grown from 5% to 44%. Even if they win, that right now some people are not getting access, they've also conceded that over the past 50 years, a lot more people have gotten access. So even if there's 79% people without access right now, we tell them in the long run they're going to get included as the program expands. But they also dropped the Greenstein 19 other piece of evidence says that 90% of funding right now goes to poor beneficiaries. So even the people who are poor right now are still getting the access. At best, this is mitigation. They don't implicate what this mitigation means for our arguments. You can't be voting on that. Please don't vote on mitigated defense that does not implicate it. Let's go to our argument. We specifically tell you that under their world, you only give money to adults, which is what their evidence says. Their evidence, if you call for it, says only adults over the age of 18 get a UBI. That's really bad because our Minogue evidence says a world where only adults get a UBI takes a lot of money from families who would have been getting money for their kids under means of welfare. That's why the average family is losing $19,000. That means two things. One, in our world, people have more hard cash because our income is free, which means they can pay for tutoring, which is a drop prerequisite on their argument about tutoring. But second, remember they've dropped the golden evidence says that as people lose money as a result of welfare, leads to a 60% increase in child poverty and more people are in poverty. They dropped the long-term way, it says from Bogani, that tells people, kids who are in poverty are 3 times more likely to be in poverty in the future, which is an irreversible impact as generations of cycles of poverty end up happening. They also dropped the fact that it prereqs their argument on tutoring because we specifically tell you if people don't have any money, they can't pay for any long-term mobility like the tuition they talk about. Their only response is that people somehow get more money without UBI because Medicaid is being cut. Call for their evidence. It does not specifically say how much Medicaid is being cut. You have no idea to what extent this mitigates our argument, but you know for a fact our Minogue evidence says in a world where you replace UBI, $19,000 are lost. We're always winning because our argument is quantified and theirs is not. On the two terms, on Medicaid, we've conceded that we'll concede the argument that care is exactly the same in both rules. They don't get access on the turn. Let's go to their argument about economic volatility pushing people over the poverty line. They have dropped the McKay 12 term that says a 1% decrease in welfare in automatic stabilizers, which is welfare, increases economic volatility by 0.6%. This is a quantified argument as to how much volatility goes up in their world, but also their impact is not implicated to poverty. Vote for child poverty is long term, that is dropped.
You all are flight one in here right after this, right?
Oh, we are?
I think so.
Oh, the pairings already come out.
Yeah. Pairings are
All
out
the
for all
pairings are
7
out.
rounds.
They've been up like a month.
Oh, but does it also say the flight?
Yes,
Okay.
flights are out, panels are out.
Awesome. Thank you.
If you all want to talk in the hallway for a minute while the judges collect their thoughts.
Am I also judging in the same room?
I can check for you.
It doesn't look like you're judging flat one here.
Okay.
Yeah.
2, 1, I think, before I press my